thank you for having me here, Caroline, for everyone for coming tonight. I know for many of you, and it's midnight and or later or sometime around that time, and so it's really beautiful to come. Like Shavuot, such an interesting holiday where we're just kind of tasked with I think learning, eating, and being together. So here we are. So when I was so my background is I'm a psychologist. I'm a longtime mindfulness teacher. I've written a number of books on the topic and written a number of programs. And so when we were talking about like, hey, what should we do today? And we very clearly made it not about meditation, because the fear was that everyone would fall asleep. And so that's not what right now is about that. But we all have revelations in our lives that come to us throughout, at one time or another. And typically that is about something I want to do in my life, something I want to change in my life. And the reality is making change, as Caroline had mentioned in there, making change is tough. It's tough to do. And so I want to make this also interactive a little bit to kind of get everyone's energy flowing kind of back and forth, to realize we're really a community here. So if you're able to, and you have like your computer in front of you or something like that, go ahead and chat. And if you can, is there a revelation that you've had? And by revelation, I mean an insight, something that you say like, what, I know deep inside of myself that this is something that I want for myself, that I've, just have had a hard time getting going, start, stop, or just never starting or anything like that. And go ahead and chat that in so we get a sense of the community here. And we also, and by the way, if someone writes something in and is like, oh yeah, that one too, I want that one too, go ahead and kind of claim that for yourself. But go ahead and kind of chat it in. Let's see kind of this chat light up for a second. And let's see what people are what everyone's kind of after here. And as you're doing that, as you're writing that in, changes come from, what we're talking about is turning these revelations into more of habits in our lives. And, you can see these kind of coming up, by the way. Need to slow down more, Lizzie said. Deborah said dieting, healthy eating, cannot stick to it. Catherine, being physically fit, making new friends my age, wanting to be working on my Spanish and Hebrew more. I mix those up all the time. Need to exercise more, daily journalism, gratitude practice, revelation to be okay with my body. So accepting the way just as I am, for Mark. Ricky said health scare caused me to realize I had to take better care of myself. More self-compassion, Benji said. Confidence, time to find my soulmate. Decluttering, I want to write more, finish what I've started. I'm in the middle of that too, Shirley. Jessica, getting over my recent divorce. Mira, doing poetry, writing regularly, loving myself more, yoga, reflection, journaling, emotion. I want to approach in my new job without emotionally investing in it, so I'm not as attached, more self-acceptance. My life is finite. I have to make every day count. All of our lives. It's true. All of our lives are finite. Presenting my true self. So much here. And we really get a sense of that, in here, that we're not alone. So in the days, weeks, and months ahead, this is something that you're explicitly writing out, that you're saying like, this is something I'm really wanting to change in my life. This is something that I'm really wanting more of in my life. And I have to say, like in this, it would be not right for me not to mention that this time in our lives right now, there's a lot that a lot of us are feeling as well. And during this whole coronavirus thing that's happened in the world, and there's just been, as a psychologist, and just in my own life as a parent of 3 boys, and I feel it too. These waves of grief bombs that kind of come, and that makes it sometimes harder to even stick to what we're doing. So I want to show you something, and while we're on this, I'm going to show you, since Caroline had mentioned it, what this change journey really looks like, so we have a sense that we're all on the same page. Before I do that, I want to remind you that many of us, so you know this, many of us have tried many things to make these changes. We have revelations and insights. We've tried different apps. We've tried different online learning courses. We've tried to go when we were physically able to go somewhere, to actually go somewhere. We tried doing things on our own, and it's actually hard. And the reason we often have a hard time, and go ahead and, by the way, while we're doing this, if you want, if you have like a pen and paper out, or if you have something that you're kind of able to type on and you have like an insight or a connection to anything that's being said in this hour, go ahead and make sure to write it out, because the research shows that when you write something out, when you have an insight or you're connecting to a concept or a practice that we're doing and you write it out, you're way more likely to remember it than when you just kind of hear it and it kind of flows in and out. So I just want to recommend that to you. You know, the reality is we're kind of, in some ways, wired against change. And, you know, we also have an overly nervous system. And by the way, just being Jewish here, no doubt that we are also impacted by a whole history of transgenerational trauma. And so we're like really wired, you know, for an overly nervous system. We're programmed to distraction more than anything else, which makes it hard to actually focus on this one thing that we want to make a difference in. And for many of us, and you may resonate with this or not, we have a real lack of inspiring social cues around us, an inspiring environment of human beings who, when we look or feel or see them or think of them, we automatically are reminded and motivated to do that thing that we're wanting to make, that change we're wanting to make. Ralph Waldo Emerson, which many of you are familiar with here, said, "The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be." The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. So it all starts with this decision. So I want to show you this change journey before I get any further with this, because I have an area that I've created called the Mindful Living Collective, which some of you might be aware of. And so I'm just kind of bringing this up right now. And this is a space that's like a central gathering space for the mindfulness community. And people are kind of gathering there and sharing. And so here, let me share this because we have this in there. Okay. So here this is. So we all want to make a change, right? Whatever change, plug in the change that you're wanting to make, this revelation, you know, that like, this is something that would be really like wonderful for me. What happens is we get really excited about it and we say, you know what, I can really do this. I can do this thing. I can, you know, I can not sweat the small stuff. I can get more organized. I can eat well. I can take better control of my emotions, and I can have more self-acceptance, you know, whatever we're trying to do. I could do more yoga more. I can do my poetry, writing regularly, get excited, and we say, I can do this. But then something happens. We get stressed. And guess what? Our brain is wired, for the most part, to, not surprisingly, stay away from the fire and move towards the pleasure. So if something's uncomfortable, typically we'll have an implicit bias, an automatic bias to avoid that thing. So if we have a hard moment in the midst of the change that we're trying to make, we're going to say like, wow, this is harder than I thought. I'd rather move towards comfort than discomfort. For most of us, not for everyone here. Some of you are wired to go towards discomfort, and that's its own thing. But for most people, it's like, it's an easy way to give up. But then something might happen where you say, you know what, this is just a small thing. Let's continue on. I have this awareness. I knew it was going to be a little hard in the beginning. And so, you know, let's continue on. So we kind of go along this change journey. As you can see, just this change journey just has natural ups and downs. And you might say like, yeah, you know what, this isn't anything new. I kind of know things naturally come and go. So what I'm hoping is, even in this moment right now, what happens with actually making change is we know a lot of things. I remember when I read, someone here said, don't sweat the small stuff. That's what they wanted to do. I remember when I first read Richard Carlson's book. Some of you might be familiar with him, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, right? Internationally mega seller book. But I remember like I read it a million years ago. I remember reading it and saying like, you know, I know all this stuff, but just the way it's being laid out just feels like I really like what he's saying. But what he was doing was he was bringing what I knew top of mind and kind of refreshing it. And I'm hoping what this does is this kind of brings it forward for you. Just bringing it top of mind, which makes it more accessible in the days, weeks, and months ahead. So there's going to be down moments, right? But in the down moments, those are our moments when we're trying to make change stick. Those are our moments, because those are our moments that are there to teach us. Those are our moments that we're aware that, you know, this is tough, and we what we want to do is bring in awareness and be on the lookout for and anticipate those moments, so we can say, what is it about this moment that's so hard? What's the challenge? And we want to begin to investigate it, get curious about it. The key attitude here is curiosity. What is it about this moment that's so hard? What is it, now that I've tried to do this thing, whatever it is that I wanted to do, and I've fallen off and a couple weeks have gone by, I'm able to look back on that moment with a learning mindset, with that lens of curiosity, and be able to say, what was it about that period? Not take it personally. What was it about that that led me to drift off that? Learn from that with a you know, almost like I'm a scientist of my own life. Pick up my learning and begin again. And that's how, if you see on this graph, that's how we go from these down moments and we begin to move back up. Even in that moment of recognizing, you know what, this is really hard. And in change, in making change, there are hard moments. So the question really is, what do I actually need right now to continue to bolster myself and move further? That's called self-compassion. And some of you here said, I want to get better at self-compassion. These down moments are your ally, you know, and then those things. So then I just wanted, so this is just to give us a sense of the reality is, in whatever change you want to make, there's no change that lasts that goes like this. That's not how change lasts. It doesn't do that type of thing. That's not the graph. It's not a Nike whoosh type of thing. It's more of this type of move, and we can expect that. We want to expect it because we almost want to, and this might sound strange, we almost want to get excited when we see the down moments, because we recognize that, you know, these are our opportunities to get stronger. And this is something that everyone goes through, by the way. These are tough moments in life. There's tough moments. The question is, what am I actually needing alongside this change journey? Lily Tomlin once said, you know, you know, forgiveness, learning how to forgive ourselves means giving up any hope for a better past. So it's not like we're trying to look at our past and say, like, well, I wasn't able to achieve it then. What makes me think I can achieve it now? We're not looking for a better past. We're looking to learn from the past that we have. Okay. So, by the way, as I'm going through this, if questions arise, you're welcome to pop them in. I'll keep the kind of chat open. I don't think anyone's kind of raising their hands in this scenario. If you want to, you're welcome to do that too. I think Caroline gave that option as well. So I pause right now to allow for just a moment of integration. For you to reflect on these changes you want to make, whatever is personal to you. And even in what we've just discussed, we've just kind of touched on the tip of the iceberg. And just looking at that journey and seeing how that's relevant to the changes you've tried to make or wanting to make, or even to the future of the change that you're wanting to make right now. How is that change journey relevant? Where have your down moments been? What has taken you off course? And how can that be a learning moment, an opportunity? Okay. So as you're doing that, I want to say something about integrating contemplation and learning. If you read a book, about making changes or whatever thing you want to do, and you read it through and you get a lot of insights from it and you feel good about it, and you have whatever insights you have and you put it back on the shelf, not much is going to change. So in here, the reason we pause right now is for you to integrate for a moment and make it personal, make it real for you, so that it becomes more memorable. It's more meaningful. Our brain makes decisions based on what's meaningful to us. And so if you can make that meaningful to you, it's going to, integrate more even in your sleep, and maybe even create more insights, tomorrow. Okay, so Lance, I'll touch on that. Lance asked, I love the chart. Could you please share more strategy for deepening growth in those low moments and dealing with failures in the journey? So I want to get to that, but let me back up for a second. We all have the changes we want to make, and typically what people do is they rush into strategies to make these changes. So I just got to sit more to be able to write. I want to write a book. I got to sit more. I just got to be, if I look at any of these that are here, I want to be more self-accepting to myself. I want to get more organized. I want to oh my God, decluttering, Liz, you said. I want to love myself more. I want to find time to find my soulmate, inner peace, so many things. We're also human. And then, oh my God, Sharon, you just touched on exactly what I was going to talk about right now, which is I cannot even get started. So here's the thing. We all rush into these strategies. We even look online in these places like, how do I get started? Let's just get started. But most programs neglect to ask the most important question, which inevitably becomes the driving force for our motivation to do any of this stuff, which is why? Why do I want to do this at all? Why do I want to love myself more? Why would I want to put a practice in my life that's about loving myself more? Why would I want to put a practice in my life about eating better on a regular basis, or exercising more, or writing poetry, or writing more? Why? We have to answer that question, because our brain makes decisions based on reasons. I know exactly why I don't walk down a dark alleyway if I see someone. I don't walk down a dark alleyway anyway, but if I see someone like swinging a shiny blade, I know exactly why, and I don't do it. I know exactly why I don't walk in the middle of a busy street. I know exactly why I don't, but why would I want to do any of these things? Our brain makes decisions off of reasons. So we have to really ask that question and be really selfish in that moment. Perfectly okay, complete permission to be really selfish in that moment. Why would I want to, what do I get out of it? What do I get out of it? What changes in my future if I'm doing these things? Like if I do this thing for a month or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, what changes in my life? What do I gain? What do I get to release in my life? What does that look like? And maybe most importantly, how does that feel? When Coca-Cola, I think it was Coca-Cola or Pepsi, I can't remember. One of them came out with the commercial forever a million years ago that said more than a feeling. I think that was it. Maybe it was something else, more than a feeling. They knew what they were doing. They're not like trying to make a rational argument to us. They're appealing to our feelings, because they know what part of our brain makes the decisions. It's the emotional part of the brain. You have to appeal to your feelings. Why do I want to do this in the first place? What am I going to get out of it? What changes in my life? What do I get to gain? What do I get to release in my life? What does it look like? What does life look like differently? How joyful or happy or connections I'll create, or pride in myself, or confidence, sense of accomplishment, like, or will I get to dance more, feel more limber with my body? Or, you know, like what will they be able to do that's different? Why? So consider that question for yourself around whatever change you're wanting to make. Why? Why do I want to make this change? What are the reasons? Maybe the most important fundamental question to begin any endeavor. I think Simon Sinek, he did a whole TED Talk, you know, on that topic. Went bananas. Like one of the top TED Talks ever. Why? So, second thing, and I'm not forgetting the ones about the down moments and how to work with those, because that's really important. But these are fundamental, and I just want to kind of nail them down. Second thing is we need to tell our brains what the North Star is. We can't just have a vague sense of what this change is. That doesn't give us, our brain, anything to hook into. It has to be specific. So if we're wanting to lose weight, we have to tell ourselves how much. How much do I want to lose? General idea, anyway. If I want to pray more, how often? When? If I want to love myself more, what does that look like? How often do I do it? Or even what does the practice look like? What does that look like? By the way, just being here right now is an act of loving yourself more. So whoever kind of said that, just know that you're in process of it. You're in process of it. And there's no one else on this planet more deserving of love than you. So set a goal and make it specific. I want to meditate 5 days a week. How am I going to do this? I'm going to set an alarm. I'm going to put it in my schedule. I'm going to get a practice buddy. I'm going to make a commitment. I'm going to, we're starting to flesh out the North Star. We have to know what direction we're going. If we were driving, someone says like, hey, where are you going? You're like, that way. We want to kind of know, where are we going? We have to have some idea about it, just so our brain has something to hook into. That's amazing. That's an important part. Third thing that I think is really important when it comes to this, and maybe after this third part, then I'll get into that's those tough moments, because that's where we all get stuck. Whatever you think, and this may sound counterintuitive, whatever you think you can do in respect to the change that you're wanting to make, the revelation that you had, the direction you want to go in, commit to less. And why would we want to do that? There's so many programs out there or pieces of advice out there that say you got to reach for the stars, go big, go huge. That way your brain can break through barriers and go on to the next stage. What I'm saying here is we want to set ourselves up for success. Those down moments are typically sometimes because we've made it too difficult for ourselves. You think you can do a particular journaling practice, or do yoga, or write poetry X amount of days per week for X amount of minutes or hours. Do a little less. Tell yourself I'll do less, and commit to that less. Because what you want to do is set up this sense that, you know what, I've accomplished this, I can do this. We want to build our confidence. We want to build our confidence so that we can then turn the dial and commit to more. That might sound, again, I've heard something like that before. No problem. We're just bringing it top of mind. No big deal. Perfectly fine. It's important to bring things top of mind. Did you know that, do you know why we have, well, I don't know. You're in New York, yeah. Or I don't know where you are. You might be in New York, might be somewhere else. In LA, and then I know in New York too, we just have a lot of billboards everywhere. Do you know why we have billboards? I didn't forget that there's McDonald's somewhere. But what are they doing with their billboards? Bring it top of mind. So that I remember when I see the billboard and then I see the next McDonald's, not that that's my thing, but like, just so you know, that's why do we have advertisements? I didn't forget that State Farm is here. I know State Farm is here. Top of mind. Top of mind. That's all. That's all we're doing. Top of mind. So if you see something here that we're talking about and your mind goes, well, I've seen that before. Don't worry about it. Just bring it top of mind. That's all. No big deal. Okay, I do want to talk about the down moments and then a couple extra really important points here. The subject of the TED Talk was really around why. That's it. That's mainly what it was about. It was about finding our reasons. So in those down moments, and this is something I've worked quite a bit with in my own life, and I'll share a story with you that some of you may relate to. The first thing we want to do to deactivate any kind of like spiral that's going to take us in the other direction, the wrong direction, the direction away from what we're wanting to do, is to recognize what's happening. Very simple, right? A quote that was attributed to Viktor Frankl, which most everyone here knows, who he is, Holocaust survivor, psychiatrist, neurologist, and the quote that's been attributed to him: between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. By recognizing that I'm in one of those tough moments, that I'm criticizing myself, I'm telling myself I can't do this thing, we step into that space between stimulus and response where there's choice, possibility, and freedom, and perspective. And by the way, what we do is we bring more blood flow to the prefrontal cortex in that moment too. And what we say is, in that moment, is we say, you know what? This is a tough moment. I'm having a tough moment. No big deal. Guess what? Tough moments are part of being human, right? It's part of life. Tough moments are part of life. We can admit that, right? Everyone in this Zoom session, just historically, the generations previous to us, everyone's known that. So we're naming it. We're naming it why. We're naming it so that we can widen that space between stimulus and response and have perspective on the choices that we have in that moment. So what's the choice? This is a tough moment. In life, there's tough moments. The question is, right now, my default is to criticize myself or tell me all the reasons why I can't accomplish this thing, or tell me all the reasons why we should just put it aside and do it later, get to it another time, whatever it is, that next guitar session, that next writing thing, that next getting back on track with the way we want to eat or take care of our body, or parent in a particular way, love our partner, or whatever it might be. Focus on our finances. This is a tough moment in life. There's tough moments, but what do I need right now? That's the question. What do I need? So this is where we stop the spiral and the spinning out from the direction, from the North Star we want to go to, and instead ground ourselves into this space because we get really real. And guess what? We also impersonalize it a little bit. This isn't about me having a tough moment, or me, I'm the screw up here. I'm the one that can't get this thing right. No, this is about being human. This is a human thing. No big deal. It's a human thing. 3 steps here. This is a tough moment. We name it so we can separate. We can step into that space between stimulus and response. That's called a moment of mindfulness. That's what that's called, a moment of awareness. Life is full of tough moments. This is about connecting with our common humanity. This is about impersonalizing it. What does that do? There's a part of our brain called the cortical midline that's all about self-referencing. Me. What I can't do, it's not possible for me. How does this whole thing connect with me? When the more we get stuck in that part, you know what that's correlated with? Feeling anxious and depressed. It's not bad. We have to know about me. How do things self-reference to me? But But sometimes we just have to get real with ourselves and recognize that it's not all about me. This is actually part of like being human. No big deal. The change journey has ups and downs for everybody. And so the real question I have for myself is not why I can't do this and why I should, try something different, or why I should just give up on this whole thing, is what do I actually need right now? Based on what's happening. What I mean, right now, maybe I do need a little bit of a break, or right now, maybe I need to get extra support. Or maybe I need to kind of find my tribe. Maybe I'm realizing that I'm doing this all on my own. And really what I do is connect with other people who are doing this too and learn from them. Or maybe what I need right now is just to call a friend and like just get that moral support. Maybe what I need right now is to love myself more. What am I going to do? I'm going to do a particular meditation that's focused on that. Maybe what I need to do is a little bit of prayer. Maybe what I need to do is, what do I need? What I need to do is just go outside and get some sunshine to splash on my face. Maybe what I need is to invite some other thoughts in. Maybe what I need to do is ask myself what's good about what I've done so far. What am I proud of about myself? What's gone right? Maybe I need to ask those questions. Maybe I just need to ask a different question. Maybe that's what I need. What do I need? So that's a really important part of those tougher moments, is really applying that self-compassion. And the self-compassion implies that we're not alone in this. That's so important. And that's that part that recognizes that life is full of these tough moments. And yeah. Carol, can you expound on that? Yeah, there's too many questions that we have in our head sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. So that's really important. Sometimes, by the way, sometimes what happens with our stress and our anxiety, or when we're kind of like getting caught off track, or we're getting really self-critical with ourselves, is our nervous system's a little bit on fire. It's almost like a little bit inflamed. And sometimes a healthy thing to do that feels really good is just to come to our bodies in that moment, recognize that my mind's kind of full of it. It's telling all kinds of sort of nonsensical stories that I'm very familiar with. And it's circling those bad neighborhoods. And what I really need is to put my hands on my heart for a moment and take a few deep breaths and really connect with myself, and be as kind to myself as possible. And that in itself can soothe the nervous system and open up our minds to other things. That maybe is what we need. And by the way, this is the whole part of the whole reason I started the Mindful Living Collective. During the pandemic, we opened up this whole space to the whole world, just so people can connect with other people and realize that we're not alone in this. And everyone, there's so much wisdom out there. So much wisdom we all have from our own lives to share in this learning together, to share in this. And so for me, one of the stories goes that, as a parent of 3 boys, 11, 9, and 5, one of the boys, there's a lot of rough and tumble play. When I'm a victim of one of those rough and tumble plays right now. My son threw a big yoga ball on my nose the other day, and just blood kind of went over everywhere. Just laying there, I was just sitting there kind of like relaxing on this thing, and like also like that. So we learned to forgive. But what came to me a long time ago is, and so for those of you who've had kids or not, if you didn't have a kid, so okay, but you can maybe relate to this in different ways, is that for a while bedtime was a tough time. My kids didn't really want to go to bed, and they got fired up. It was as if bedtime was the most active time of the whole day. And at that time, as a parent, you're just like, I'm so tired. It's time for me to relax. It's kind of my time, at some point too. And that was the expectation that would come up sometimes. And when it didn't work out with my expectations, sometimes I'd get frustrated. And I noticed, because I've done this work for a while, that one of the things that comes with mindfulness is this thing that's called meta-awareness. Meta-awareness, it just means like I'm aware of this triangle of awareness that's happening right now of sensations in my body, emotions, and what my mind is thinking. It's almost like there's this awareness that lies outside of that experiencing that's happening in that moment. And sometimes it doesn't come till later, and sometimes it comes in the moment. Depends what kind of moment it is. But in the parenting moment, I noticed what was so helpful to me was when I noticed that my thermometer was getting really high, that I said to myself, you know what? I'm having a hard moment right now. That naming it created a shift in my nervous system, just a slight shift in my nervous system. Just that naming it. Because what happened from a neuroscience point of view, what happened in that moment is I got out of the emotional center of my brain. I didn't get out of it exactly, but it's almost as if I spread the blood flow to the prefrontal cortex as well. So it's almost like there was more of a expanded sense of blood flow throughout my brain, and I could see my emotional center and see what's happening. This is a tough moment. I said, you know what? In life, there's tough moments. In parenting, there's tough moments. In my life, there's tough moments. And in fact, right now on my block right now, there's probably a lot of parents having a lot of tough moments. And the question is like, what do I need? I need to soften my body. I need to take a deep breath. And so I'd say, and this is so, it has its roots in Judaism. Loving kindness has roots in Judaism, as well as Buddhism, and a lot of the world's wisdom traditions. And but loving kindness has roots in Judaism. And I'd say, you know, may I be at ease. And I think of my kids in that moment, and I'd say, may you be at ease. Try this out next time if things begin to open up, or you're having a tough moment, or you're on the subway, or you're trying to get a taxi, or, you know, whatever you're trying to do. And say that, and check this out, and try this out. This is, I be, may you be. I thought of all the parents on my block, in my neighborhood, in my city, around the world, my time zone. May we all be at ease. What happened? It was like magic. It's like magic, because I got out of that self-referencing part of my brain that was making me suffer so much, and realized this is just a human experience right now. And also I got out of myself. I started thinking about other people, not just myself. It wasn't just all about me, my suffering in that moment, right? I started thinking about my kids. I want you, yeah, me, you too. Because by the way, if you were at ease, everything would be a lot better too. So may I be, may you be, may we all be. It's like my body relaxed. Try that out for yourself when you're frustrated with anybody or anything, you know, in your life. Just that 3-step thing. May I be, may you be, may we all be, and just see what happens. It takes 20 seconds to do, no big deal. So that's another thing we can do in those tough down moments that we have. Can you expand on the triangle of meta-awareness? So that in any given moment, there's 3 things happening. I'm having sensations in my body, I'm having emotions, and I'm having thoughts. That's the triangle of awareness. The meta-awareness. Meta-awareness just means like metacognition. It's just a term that's out there that is the experience, really a kind of experience of being aware of what's happening while it's happening. So it's almost like if you're aware of what's happening while it's happening, you're not in that thing. If you're aware of something, there's a little bit of space between you and that thing, right? If you're aware of a painting on a wall, you're not like smashed up against that painting. There's a little bit of space between you and the painting. That's what means that's how you're aware of it. If you're aware of a sensation in your body, there's something being aware of that sensation, right? So there's a little bit of space there to have an awareness of it. If you're aware of a dog running, you'll see there's a little bit of space. So the awareness of that triangle that's happening, which is what's happening to any human being in a particular moment, thoughts, emotions, sensations, is called meta-awareness. And with the beauty of meta-awareness, when you can inhabit that space, and with meditation, it gives you practice in that. And I think prayer gives you practice in that, and other types of meditation, there's a lot of different types of meditation. When I say meditation, it's a large umbrella. Mindfulness meditation is a particular type of meditation that weaves really well in with Judaism. That's why If you haven't read The Jew and the Lotus, or there's so many books out there that are like, Dalai Lama is sitting there, the Dalai Lama is sitting there and saying, have you guys survived for so long out in the diaspora? My people are in the diaspora right now. I need to learn from all of you. And all the rabbis go to him and say, how come all the Jews are turning Buddhist? Can you please share with us why that's happening? And so it's a great book, by the way. And so that's what so with meta awareness, what happens is you just really are kind of knowing what's happening while it's happening. And so you have a little bit more of control, and you have a little more perspective on choice of like, how do I want to respond to this experience right now? So I'm not being as reactive, but instead I'm kind of responding. I'm responding with softening my body. I'm responding with taking some deep breaths. I'm responding with being aware maybe of someone else other than me. Like, maybe why should my kids be so wild in that moment? Of course, they don't, they just want to kind of play more. They don't want to go to sleep. If I can inhabit their space, maybe I can connect with them better. And that's called interpersonal mindfulness. Ari says, very inspiring. Can one have Heed bonanut in the digital realm as we are bombarded by stimuli? Heed bo dedut. Can you say that what the English word is for that? So, I guess I'm missing that one. But in the realm as we're bombarded by stimuli. Yeah, we are so bombarded by stimuli, and at the same time we're addicted to it. Did you notice that? Did you notice how we're addicted to stimulation? It's almost like it's confusing whether we're actually addicted to it or we're reacting out of anxiety. There's different views on this. Fear of missing out, fear of keeping up. That would mean we're kind of reacting out of anxiety more than addiction. Like we're reacting to quash some anxiety. So it's a tough one, because we're and that could be a change you want to make. That could be a revelation. I need to get more space. How can I use the digital world for good? Ways that feed me. What part of the digital world is nourishing to me? What part is depleting? Sometimes I ask people, I say, rather than, there's so many great apps out there that try to get you space from your digital world. Refers to practice of self-secluded Jewish. Oh, okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, Caroline. I think taking time on retreat is very important. It's very important to take time away from the stimulation that's there to get perspective. I also know that we fall back into our habits like that. And so we can take retreats, days away, isolation from time to time in the year. And I think that could be really helpful, planting deep seeds, watering certain seeds within ourselves. And at the same time, and this goes right to the heart of making change last, making our revelations last. At the same time, that's not what makes it stick. It's a component, and it's important. And our everyday life doesn't have that in it unless we take many moments of it, like meditation in isolation for many moments, for periods of half an hour, 45 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it might be. But even then, it's pretty hard. And so what is the secret sauce to making change really stick? What's the secret sauce? So we talked about, a variety of things today. We talked about the change journey. We talked about the importance of asking why, how most of us and most programs out there really kind of miss that piece. Why to really reflect on that. Why do I want to actually do this thing? What am I going to get? What is it going to give me? We talked about setting a North Star, getting specific. We talked about committing to less. We talked about what do we do in those tough moments that can help us be more resilient. Not only make us more resilient, by the way, but actually make us stronger, make our hearts stronger. Give us a sense that no matter what comes my way, I know I'm going to be okay because I can handle it. I can handle these down moments. I know how to get myself back on track. I know how to reduce the rumination and come back to like, what I need, what my North Star is, and remind myself why I'm doing this in the first place. And by the way, if you really want to make that change, remind yourself of that every day. Write it down on a piece of paper and make sure you look it over. Sit with it for like a minute or two. Why? Why do I want to do that? What do I get out of it? Like, what am I going to get out of it? What's my life going to look like? Remind yourself of that every day. One thing I just wanted to, I mentioned in here, but I wanted to make sure that I said is that it's so important, whether this may fit for you or not, but I know in my life and for the people that I've worked with, it's so important to actually schedule these things in as priorities. Whatever that you want to make, to like look in your calendar and look in your week and say, is there anything in this week that I find like depleting that I could knock out? Is there anything in here that's kind of like neutral that I can kind of knock out and create space for? Or if not, is there somewhere I can take this thing and weave it into my calendar, here, commit to it. I want to schedule it like a doctor's appointment. Again, top of mind, just bring it top of mind for you. But schedule it, make it a priority. And what are we doing? We're making a priority. Why am I making it a priority? I might write in there what the thing is, and I might write in there, click on it, expand it, and write why I'm even doing this, just to remind myself, why is this thing even in my calendar? Why am I committing to eating different? Why am I creating? I want to put that in every appointment in my calendar. I want to put that why in there. I want to make sure I cut and paste, just throw it in there, right on a piece of paper, whatever you're doing. I want to remind myself why, so I can really see it. I remind myself of that, because all of a sudden, this thing kind of grabs my attention is I need to squash that anxiety. So I got to, check this thing. That's going to take up my time. I scroll through the whatever it is, and it's going to take my time. It's more important. My brain says it's more important because it's soothing something, but it's not what's most important. So we're reminding ourselves why. Okay, but this is the kicker. Thank you for that, Ari. This is the kicker. The most important thing, the absolute most important thing to making any change last, to making any change you want stick, is to make sure you have the human beings around you that are inspiring to you to make that change. To have the human beings around you that are going to inspire you to make that change. What does inspire you to make that change mean? That just means that the very thought of them or the presence of them brings it top of mind and brings a certain energy with it that creates motivation to actually do it. That's the right person. Someone asked me, because I've run many retreats on this. I talk about the science of interdependence and connection. It's very important to me to help people understand this. And someone said to me, well, what if this person is like a person you don't like? They're not like a inspiring person to you. There's someone who the very presence of that, of them motivates you to do this thing because you want to do it because you don't want to be like them or something like that. I said, okay, that's fine. Yeah, you can put that person around you. That's okay. Play with that. Whatever it is, we're just kind of experimenting, right? Experiment. What is the presence of this people? So one way of kind of doing that is taking a little bit of a social inventory. I know our time is coming to a close. So I just want to kind of give you this last piece, and you can sit with it and kind of do this on your own. Take a social inventory of yourself and ask yourself, who do I spend and have the most contact with in like a week? And then rate those people. And this is just not to be cold, and these aren't bad people or anything like that, but rate those people on a scale of 1 to 10, of least inspiring to most inspiring. Inspiring is that gives me energy, reminds me to do that kind of thing. The presence of this person like lifts me up to this in this direction. And again, we're not casting away the low numbers, because those could be people we love and care about and feed us in other ways. But I'm just talking about this. So a guy named Jim Rohn, who's a motivational speaker, not alive anymore. And he said, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. There's some reality to that. There's some reality, because there's also a science of interdependence. Anybody who knows some of the Kabbalistic, work out there, we talk about, any of the mystical traditions talk about this. And there's some science about it. So there's quantum physics. And so who are the people I spend, and then are there people on the periphery that are actually inspiring that I don't have that much contact with? And how can I make some more contact with them? How can I bring them a little bit closer, make a little bit more contact with them? And then the question comes, are there people I don't even know that are these people? Where do I find these people? You know, here we have this beautiful group here, right? And the JCC, you might find a lot of these people, right? I find a lot of these people here. And there might be other places to find people too. So we're just kind of looking, and where can I find these people? Where are these people? And so we're just kind of starting this process of putting together, of curating our social circles for this particular reason, because of the change you want to make, right? And you might not need to look too far outside your social circle, maybe not, or maybe you need to find some other people. And again, this was the entire reason for me. This has been such an important thing for in my own life, and to help people understand how interconnected we really are, and what impact we have on other people and what impact they have on us. And to understand that we can curate that circle a little bit better, just a little bit. Let's say you curated your circle 30% better, whatever, in that direction for that type of thing. And this was the entire reason, you know, that we created the Mindful Living Collective. The entire reason, because I'm interested in mindfulness, everyone there who's coming in there wants to integrate mindful living into their life. Everybody. So that whole group is a curated group of those people, of psychologists and therapists and educators and people in business and, you know, various things. So there's smaller segments of those people coming in there. You know, if you want to live, if the idea is to live a Jewish life, the JCC is filled with those people. And so how can I commit to make more connection? And so, you know, this was in some ways just a tip of the iceberg, but I hope that, you know, you took some breaths through this, you took some notes, you took it in and personalized it, felt what was meaningful to you. And I'll end with just this quote by Hafiz, where he said, how did the rose ever open up and show to the world all its beauty? How did the rose ever open up and show to the world all its beauty? It felt the encouragement of light against its being. Otherwise, we all remain too frightened. It felt the encouragement of light against its being. And so may we all find the light, the people in our lives and the things in our lives and the experience in our lives that shine light against our being, that overcomes the fear so we can make the changes we want to make in a more lasting way. So thank you so much for having me. I did see some people here asking, you know, where do you find the collective? That's just mindfullivingcollective.com. Pretty simple in that way. It's a free space. And so, yeah. And so thank you so much for having me, Caroline, and
thank you so much. That
here
was so insightful. And I think that we're all going to look for our North Star and people to share it with.